Hey, welcome to another episode of the Philosophy Podcast. I am your host, Controversy, and to my right, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, none other than Mr.
Darren Love.
And together, we are the Philosophy Podcast. Thank you to you guys for tuning in to a brand new episode. Thank you for tuning in once again this week, guys. And like we always say, what is on the agenda for this week, mate? What is today's
hot topic? I thought we'd talk about I thought we'd talk about maturity today.
Maturity?
Yeah, what is it, you know?
Okay. So this week we're talking all about
maturity.
That's it.
What is maturity?
I was just gonna say to you, how mature are you feeling?
Well, what is it, you know, at the end of the day? Because I mean, like when you get older, apparently you go into your second childhood and you start behaving more like childlike as you get older.
Well, I must say that I have seen it happen to some older people. It's true, like older people there, if you see what I mean. Not, you know. It is true because, like, unfortunately, in that instance, you know, not to get too serious or too, you know, but in that instance, it's usually, obviously, sometimes, you know, they might need assistance with eating, and they might unfortunately become incontinent and have to start wearing like nappies again, and all those kind of things. So they kind of do revert, kind of, you know, and have to be looked and then have to be looked after, have to be bathed, have to be dressed.
Depending who they are, isn't it? You know, like we're all to say, you know,
so
as we get older, we all got different problems. You know, some people are a bit blinder than others. Some people can't hear as well as others. Their hearing goes. Some completely gone. Some just a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
I think we've got different problems as we get older. Some people can't walk. Some people can a little bit, or some people lose their memories a bit, don't they? Or
yeah.
Some people are with it when they're old. I mean, I'm hoping when I get old, I'm going to be with it.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
I think maturity is really basically doing the right thing, isn't it? As well.
Yeah.
In the right circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, when I used to play with my young children, at times I felt like when I was playing with them, I was being a bit immature.
Okay.
But sometimes you've got to play that.
Oh yeah, especially if you've got very young children. Obviously, you've got to play.
Well, you don't want to be swearing in front of them, do you?
No,
you know what I mean. So you've got to play down your age a bit.
Yeah, but not only that, but like you said, like it's if you're playing games with them, especially if they're very young, they're playing like very young, silly games. You see what I mean? Of course, you might run around and play with them if you see what I mean.
You've got to kind of pretend that you're 10.
Exactly. You're exactly because they want you to participate in the game and take parts. Of course, you want them to feel like you're, you know what I mean, engaged in, you know, in what the game, you know. So, like you said, you've got to, you know, you adapt, don't you? You know. Yeah.
I also think maturity is also a lot to do with being independent and learning how to be independent in life.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. That's definitely a big part.
Like learning how to cook, learning how to, do you know what I mean? I think that's a lot to do with maturity as well.
To me, maturity is just evolution of the human being, essentially, you know? That's how I look at it. It's just, to me, maturity is just the evolution of a human being. The older you get, you don't always equate age to maturity, because it doesn't always work that way, unfortunately.
True.
But in a lot of cases it also does, and you know, depending on the person, of course, it's all individual. But yeah, you know, you know, the older you get, the more, in my opinion anyway, the older you get, the wiser you're supposed to become. You know, the more mature you're supposed to become, the more grounded, the more focused, the more.
The better decisions you make.
Yeah, like you're supposed to have you're supposed to be switched on by at least by a certain age. You're supposed to be, you know, kind of got some kind of sense of what direction you want your life to go in, and you know what you're, you know, etc. You know, you got to be, you know,
responsible.
That's another big part of it too. Yeah.
responsible.
Yeah. It's just learning to, as you get older, right, and like, especially like when you get, if you enter, like you have children, or you get married, or you get into a like serious long-term relationship, or whatever the case may be, the more you, especially as you get older, you become a man, and also for women, but I think sometimes men take a little bit longer to mature sometimes in some circumstances than women, in terms of, getting, as they get older.
I think with hormones again, like we were talking about sex a bit last week, whatever, women, girls normally, their hormones develop a bit at a younger age.
Yeah.
So they mature in different ways.
They tend to mature faster, faster than boys.
In different ways, I think. I think maturity circles a lot of different things, I think.
Yeah, because obviously you've got physical maturity, and then obviously you've got mental maturity and emotional and etc. type of maturity.
Yeah, I think there's a wide range of maturities, really. I mean, it's worth sort of like talking about, isn't it? And sort of, it's quite an interesting thing to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, incoming!
Yeah.
Very important call, ladies and gentlemen. Live, first ever caller, first live caller.
No, I'll turn it off.
Yeah, first live caller. Always decline the live caller, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
First live caller we've ever had on the show was phoning in to give his opinion on maturity, but he, No,
it's my brother. No, I'll call him later on.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother's 2 years older than me. Yeah. So he should be a little bit more mature.
Would you say he's more mature than you? That was going to be my question. You read my mind.
Not in all ways. No.
Yeah.
No, not in all ways.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about my brother, he tends to sort of like enjoy drinking a little bit more than me, and enjoyed the club life a little bit more. He enjoys dancing, but I don't know, is it mature going out all the time, clubbing all the time? I mean, I feel like sometimes we, people take things too seriously.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
So seriously, we can't enjoy and have fun.
It's got to find a balance, don't you?
Yeah, like a thin line, isn't it?
Because you still got to try to enjoy your life too at the same time. But I think sometimes, not to go too far off topic either, because I don't want to go too much off topic, but I think sometimes people equate having a good time today with excessive drinking and partying and doing drugs. Let's be honest, because a lot of time whenever someone would talk about having a good time today, generally those are the things that are associated with it, if you see what I mean. And I think we've got to a kind of a point in society today, not everyone has forgotten it, but I think a lot of people have, where we can have a good time without these things also, if you see what I mean. Like, it's been so ingrained into the quote unquote having a good time that you've got to be drinking or you've got to be doing this. It's like you can also have a nice gathering and barbecue and whatever else, and still have a really good time without.
I mean, if you had a good drink, because I mean I used to drink a lot, well not a lot, but a lot more than I do today, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I tend to sort of remember sort of like drinking, and the more I drank, the sort of more immature I behaved in a funny way, it's sort of like your maturity goes out the window completely when you're drinking. And so, how many centuries has alcohol been around it's been around for
a long time.
Thousands of years.
Thousands of years, yeah.
So man has been drinking really and having parties like this for
a long time.
Quite a long time really, and you can imagine the problems it's caused to society over the years.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when we're not drinking water, we're drinking sort of alcohol, we're not doing what's right really, are we? I don't feel. We're stepping off the lines and getting drunk. I mean, when people get behind the wheel, they're more likely to crash
for sure.
if they're drinking. That's why you're not allowed to drink, So you're more likely to make many more mistakes than you usually do.
Yeah.
And just basically, I just think the maturity kind of goes out, and the more you drink, the less, the more childlike you get.
Yeah.
In a funny way.
Mm.
And I just don't think it's a really mature thing to sow out there in a funny way. That's why I think we're all going a little bit wrong here, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because alcohol lives in your blood the next day as well.
Yeah. For a certain amount of time, for sure.
I mean, if you're drinking a lot, really, sort of every day, you become.
That's why even sometimes, right, people go out and have a lot to drink on a Friday night, and even though they might be absolutely fine the next morning because they're used to drinking, some of these people that drink heavily, they're used to it, so they might have quite a lot Friday night and might have to go to work Saturday, but in the morning they feel absolutely fine. But if they get pulled over and breathalyzed for whatever reason, a lot of time, like you said, because of how much they've consumed, they might still be over the legal limit the next day, if you see what I mean, even though they haven't touched a drop that day. It was all from the previous night, if you see what I mean. So it does happen, you're very right. It does. I have seen that happen before, actually, on one of these shows, those old shows, those shows used to get like on Channel 4 and whatever else, ITV and stuff, Copper's Interceptor or whatever it was, where they pull people over and record it and all this type of shit,
But yeah, I just feel like if say alcohol wasn't invented, I think mankind would be a lot more mature today.
Yeah.
Or a bit more sensible, and it wouldn't be such a mess today. I feel. And it's just same with a lot of drugs. We've come across opium many 1,000 years ago, and we've discovered drugs since then. And when it makes people happy, people like them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like if you want to find happiness, just drink water and enjoy silence in a kind of way. And I find that you find sort of like paradise, I feel, when you find enjoyment in yourself, when you start enjoying who you are. I feel like you find sort of paradise in life, and you don't need drink, basically.
No.
And that I feel that's maturity.
Yeah.
In a kind of way, just behave mature. And sometimes, like on my birthday, I might think, all right, let's get a drink.
Yeah, of course. There's a little celebration.
Just to make my head feel a bit merry.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go too far.
I think a couple of times a year it's okay.
I don't want to go too far.
Like we do. We probably got, I was going to say, I probably have maybe 3 drinks a year, maybe.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Maybe,
But I wouldn't, I'm not
very many.
Because I've done it before, I've just gone too far, drunk too much, and you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Really. So I mean, if you have a bottle of vodka, I can guarantee next day you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, for sure.
One way or another, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people that do drink a lot. I mean, my own dad used to drink a lot. He was a bit of an alcoholic, and I know some friends that were alcoholics.
Yeah.
But they always think they're all right.
I think they're in control.
They're normal. There's nothing, they just feel like normal, but on the outside everyone can see.
Yeah, the people
they're being quite rude.
Yeah.
Quite unrespectful.
Yeah.
And so on. I kind of find that you do kind of like, not all the time. I feel like it depends on how your life's going.
True, but I find they usually have certain traits too, like you said, like sometimes they're more irritable than like the average person, if you see what I mean, on edge a little bit, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more snappy, a little bit more, and like you said, they don't always realise because they're so used to the amount of whatever it is they consume that, but from the outside world looking in, people can see that there's something not quite right, there's something, So it's like, okay, and like I'm not judging anyone. I don't want people to think that we're judging anyone. We don't judge people, you know what I mean? We're not here to judge anyone. We're just giving examples and talking about stuff, real life experience or whatever else. But quite often during the day, whenever I'm off and I go into town or whatever, not all the time, but a few times a month at least, a good 4 or 5 times a month, I often see a few different people around town lurking outside one of the chemists outside there, if you see what I mean. And straight away, you already know, you know they're after the methadone, essentially. You know what I mean? Because the guy comes out and gives it to them, and you know what I mean. And you could obviously the methadone is for the heroin people who were.
Well, I don't really know. To be honest,
people,
I'm not an expert.
People,
on that
well, because I've worked in the medical field, I know. You know what I mean? Like people who are withdrawing off of these type of drugs, these hard drugs, they would, if you see what I mean, like whether or not they're still doing it, or they just, you know, they can't get any, so they're starting to have bad withdrawals. They will go and get this thing from the chemist to help them with the symptoms of their withdrawals. If you see what I mean, to help them feel a bit better while they're going through their withdrawal symptoms. If you see what I mean, if they're trying to get clean or sober, or just can't get any at the time for whatever reason, can't get their fix. If you see what I mean. And yeah, it's just like, you know, it's quite shocking. But yeah, it's you know, I can't remember exactly what what point I wanted to make, but yeah, it's not easy.
What about drugs?
Yeah, but I think a part of maturing is, especially when you get to, after a certain age, like you shouldn't be doing any drugs. You shouldn't be like, if you've never tried any drugs or done any drugs up until that point, you shouldn't be even thinking or interested in doing any drugs. Like, and like I said, like we say all the time, we would never encourage anyone to do any of these things or anything like that. We're not here to encourage anyone in any way to participate in anything like that. But we're just saying that usually when people do these things, they do them when they're young and you know, certain stages of their life, if you see what I mean, where it's, you know, they're just in kind of, you know, lots of party environments and etc. whatever else, because they're young and having fun with their friends and whatever else, and you know, and then within, you know, a year or two after, you know, that, you know, they move on, you know what I mean, and you know, and forget all about it, if you see what I mean. It's not something they do all the time, if you see what I mean. It's a phase.
We are kind of living in a written up system in a kind of way, sort of written where people, I mean, what used to be when it first started, sort of like 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this sort of like went everywhere, you know, and it's now flexi time now and all kinds of things, whatever, you know, they changed it a bit, but it used to be, you're not allowed to work on Sundays.
Yeah.
Right, and slowly in time the shops are opened up on Sundays. Now today the supermarkets are working on Sundays.
Yeah.
But at one point, when I was a bit younger, 40 years ago,
used to be closed.
Yeah. They all closed, all these shops.
Well, I remember even when I used to, when I was very young, and I used to come back on holiday, because obviously I was living in the Caribbean at that time, but occasionally when we came back for holidays, I remember I used to come back on a Sundays, it used to be closed. And that was obviously only 15 years ago, or however long it was. So
slowly in time, I've noticed everything's allowed to be, you know, allowed to work on Sundays basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of opened up.
But I guess also, like, okay, me working in the industry that I've always worked in the medical industry, healthcare industry for a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be 24
It's 24/7. So for me, working weekends was something to me that became so normal that it's because of my profession. If you see what I mean, that you know.
But the reason why I say this is all written up, where people are forced in a kind of way to go with the system that's written down, and they got to find a job, you know, sort of like some kind of job, whether it's into teaching or whatever job. They get a job, and their children, they have children, they got to go to school, and we're all kind of living in this written system. And then we get like time off sometimes on a Friday and the weekend, so people tend to sort of go out for a drink, you know, and have a good time, get drunk,
blow off steam.
you know, blow off steam, you know.
Yeah.
It is sort of like, this is all written up, if you see what I mean, but it's just crazy to even sell the stuff really when you think about it. You know, I go to the supermarkets and it's got one aisle there, you know, I mean, goodness knows how much alcohol is sold a week, right? But I know that it's a huge business.
It's $1 billion industry, mate.
And it you know, it does take maturity away from us. So we're selling something that takes maturity. You know, we're neglecting our children a little bit because we're going out, getting babysitters instead. We're not looking after our children. You know, do you know what I mean? It's all sort of written in this system in a kind of way where even my dad, he used to go out drinking all the time, as I might have said before in previous episodes. You know, he used to sort of like Friday drink, you know, and he had alcohol in his blood. You know, not. I can see why my mum and dad got divorced. Do you know what I mean? It was, and it was the in thing for every man to do that at that time. There was pubs and clubs about everywhere, you see, and there were workmen clubs everywhere, and they had entertainment in these clubs for weekends, you know, when people finished work, and it's kind of like written where people were kind of like neglecting their children and being foolish, and you know, and we're still selling it today. Like, you know, we're continuing, we're not changing our ways at all. Do you know what I mean? Or waking up that this is not the right or something, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand people drinking, alright, when they ain't got no family at all, and their children to be responsible for, if you see what I mean. But I mean, it's okay if you've got children and you're a light drinker and you only work, you know, have occasional drink. But as I say, there's a lot of parents that really are quite heavy drinkers and they've got children, and that becomes dangerous.
Of course, I mean.
Yeah. It's not mature.
No.
Not mature.
But that's the trouble though with society, right, mate? Is that I think naturally most human beings have what you would call like an addictive personality, where anything that we enjoy, essentially anything that we enjoy in life as human beings, because we've all got things that we enjoy in life, whatever those things are, can become an addiction.
Definitely.
Whether it be food, whether it be gambling, whether it be our last week's topic, porn, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol,
cricket, or sports.
whether it be sports, anything that you abuse or you overdo in life that is causing detriment to you is an addiction.
Definitely.
That is the reality of life.
You got to control your addictions, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah. So that's one thing about being mature also as well. Is if you are going to have a drink, be mature about it. Say, okay, I'm going to have 2 at the most. Because I know once I have 2, I might feel a little bit sweet, but I'm still in control of all my faculties. And that's where you want to be.
Well, you've got to be disciplined.
It's okay to feel a little bit merry and feel a little bit like, you know what I mean, that you can feel like you've had a little, you know, you've had a couple, but you're still in control, and that's being mature, you know, so that, you know, when you go home, whatever the case may be, is you're still in the right frame of mind, you know, you're not intoxicated, you know. And
you've got to have good discipline with yourself, haven't you?
But that's what it is. I think that's what it boils down to. And
you've got to tell yourself something.
A lot of people lack discipline, though, mate. This is the problem. This is the thing. People lack discipline. People think just because things are enjoyable and it's enjoyable and it's fun to do, that it's okay to abuse everything that you enjoy.
No, people love doing what they want, don't they?
And it's like you can't. It's hard. Like you said, it boils down to discipline, and a lot of people. The reality is that a lot of people aren't disciplined with themselves because they haven't matured in that aspect of their lives. They haven't realised that life's about balance, and if you don't, especially as you get older, once you get to a certain age, if you don't start to incorporate balance into your life, your health and everything will start to have problems and shit. You know. Because when you're young, your body's young and strong and almost indestructible up until a certain age, if you see what I mean. But once you get to a certain age, and your body's, you know, you've got to start looking after yourself and, you know, taking care of it.
Well, when you're a baby, you got your parents looking after you, your mum changing your nappy. You know, you're helpless, aren't you? You're just dependent on everyone to sort of teach you how to. Basically, as you grow up, teach you how to sort of be independent and mature, so you can cope with life on your own with a smile. Basically, I think.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. You know, a lot of children they leave school, and some children have not had very good parents. You know, they might have been drinking alcohol half the time. You know, I mean, I know someone called Ryan. Okay, and his parents are a little bit. you know, like they drink a lot, and it causes problems. You know, the child grows up and they just feel, you know, that every child wants to be wanted and loved.
Yeah.
And if they're not having that,
yeah.
they will walk the other way in a kind of way, you know, and they have to learn for themselves a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
We all kind of like go different paths in a funny way. And I think it's up to the individual to try to walk on the path that's beautiful, you see what I mean? I mean,
but also, I think also sometimes things in life, right, things happen for a reason, and sometimes these things happen to give you like an example of what you don't want to become, if that makes sense. So like I remember even growing up in like Caribbean and shit, like I remember sometimes being on the block at a young age, chilling with the older guys, like, and once in a blue moon a crackhead might come through to the block, you know what I mean, trying to get his fix. And like the way that
kind of teaches you a lesson, doesn't it?
It just straight away, once you see a crackhead, you know straight away, you know straight away, you know kind of almost straight away that it's a crackhead, and what they're looking for is crack, yeah, if you see what I mean. And
I don't think I've ever met.
And once they get their crack, mate, it's I remember even from young, I remember like seeing this and being like, you know what, I could never allow myself, no disrespect to anyone out there, like, you know what I mean, like I said, we're not judging, we're not here to judge, but I'm just saying for me personally, like I've always had that mindset of like, I can never allow myself to be in that position. I've got too much, I'm too strong of a person, too strong mentally, too, you know, like you said, disciplined, if you see what I mean.
I think like sometimes when you take these kind of drugs, I mean, I've never touched crack.
Like what? I've
never experienced it.
I've drunk
what it's like.
I've drunk alcohol before.
Yeah.
And I've smoked green before.
I've done speed, okay.
But I've never touched anything else apart from alcohol or green.
I have tried cocaine, alright, yeah, when I was a bit younger, and I tried speed. Okay. Whatever. But crack I don't know much about, and I don't know how it affects your mind.
Well, what they used to do basically, essentially, was they would buy cocaine and cook it, like make it into like a rock, essentially.
Right,
like if you see what I mean, mix it with other stuff.
I'm with you.
And cook it down into like a rock form.
Yeah.
And then cut it up
like
into
a crystal.
And then cut it up into pieces.
Okay.
And sell the pieces, if you see what I mean.
Okay. But like, I mean, when you take those kind of things, I can imagine, right, that you can't really control your discipline anymore when you're on them.
Mate, I've seen, but they start to act strange sometimes, mate. Like, don't get me wrong, you might get one or two that might be doing it for many, many years. So when you see them smoking or whatever, they might go off into their corner and shit, and you know, might be hitting their little pipe, their little crack, you know, their horrible looking old, you know.